I was folding laundry when my life fell apart. Not in some dramatic, movie-style way with thunder and slow-motion yelling. Just me on the couch, sorting socks, with a game humming quietly on the TV. My phone buzzed, but it was across the room on the charger. The buzz didn't stop though, and then I heard another vibration. Emily's phone on the coffee table. We'd been together 6 years, married for 2. She was a nurse, worked long shifts, and had a habit of leaving her phone wherever she dropped it when she walked in the door. Normally, I didn't even look at it. We weren't that couple. Nothing to hide, nothing to prove. That night was different only because I saw my own name on the screen. A notification slid across the top. Kyle, dude, are you okay? Kyle is my younger brother. The guy who thinks typing a novel means any text over 3 sentences. Him asking if I was okay out of nowhere made my stomach flicker. Another buzz. Another message. Kyle, please tell me she didn't send this to you by accident. Now I was on my feet. I wiped my hands on my jeans, grabbed Emily's phone, and unlocked it with the code I'd known for years. The messages weren't from her to me. They were screenshots my brother had sent to her. Between their bubbles, there it was. A screenshot from her phone. My number at the top. A long text that I had never received. I've to try different men before I settle for kids, she typed. I love Mark, but I'm not ready for forever with one person. I need to experience things. Once I've done that, I'll come back and we'll talk about a family. My eyes ran over the lines again and again. The grammar barely registered. The meaning hit just fine. I scrolled up. Kyle had written, "What are you doing, Em? You can't say this about my brother. Are you serious? This isn't okay." Her replies were right there. You don't get it. He's too safe. Too predictable. I'm not cheating. I'm just thinking about my options. Don't tell him. He'd freak out, and I'm not ready for that yet. My heart felt like it had swallowed ice. I didn't even realize Emily had come out of the shower until I heard her voice behind me. Hey, did DoorDash? She stopped. I could feel rather than see her freeze when she noticed the phone in my hand. I turned around slowly. You have to try different men before you settle for kids? Her face drained of color so fast it was almost impressive. Mark, I can explain. That's the sentence you're opening with? I asked, my voice sounding weirdly calm. Because the last one you wrote was pretty clear. She stepped closer, water still dripping from her hair onto her t-shirt. You shouldn't go through my phone. You shouldn't be planning a test drive of strangers before we have kids, I answered. Her mouth opened, closed. She grabbed the phone like she could stuff the words back inside it. It was just me venting.
I'm overwhelmed.
Kyle overreacted.
Ist here.
So you didn't write this? She swallowed hard. I wrote it, but I didn't mean it like. You didn't mean what, exactly? I cut in. Because these look like pretty complete sentences. Anger wanted to rush up and take over, but it never quite did. Instead, I felt something else. A kind of quiet, heavy sadness. Like I'd been standing in a house with a cracked foundation and someone finally showed me the diagram. Emily wrapped her arms around herself. I feel trapped sometimes. We got married so young. Everyone else is out there, I don't know, exploring. I go from work to home to work to home. I love you, but you want to see what else is on the menu before you settle for kids. I finished for her. She winced. Can you not say it like that? That's how you said it, I replied. She looked away, jaw clenched. I didn't cheat. I haven't done anything. And how long is that supposed to last? I asked. Because the way this reads, you're not saying never. You're saying not yet. Silence stretched between us. The TV murmured something about a touchdown and a commercial. Outside, a car drove by. Inside, everything that had felt solid in my life tilted. Look, she said finally. Maybe I phrased it badly, but I'm being honest about my feelings. Isn't that what everyone says we should do? Honest would have been telling me, I said. Not my brother. Her eyes flashed with irritation. I told him because I knew you'd react like this. You always think in extremes. Emptying our marriage like a rental car isn't an extreme to you? The calm in my voice scared me more than if I'd yelled. What exactly is your plan here, Em? Date around for a while, then come back when you're ready for soccer practices and a minivan. She said nothing. I shook my head. You can't keep me on layaway while you try different men. Tears gathered in her eyes, but they didn't move me the way they used to. Why are you making this sound so ugly? She whispered. Because it is ugly, I said. You just dressed it up in cute phrases. She pulled in a shaky breath. So that's it? You're just leaving? No, I said. I'm asking you something first. She blinked. What? Do you want this marriage? I asked. Not someday, not after an experiment, not once you're done trying things. Right now. Do you want this? She hesitated. Not for a second, not for a breath. For a full, solid 5 seconds. That was my answer. You had to think about it, I said. I think we're done. Her eyes went wide. You can't just decide that in one night. I'm not, I said. You decided it in that text. I'm just listening. She stepped toward me, hand outstretched. Mark, please, don't throw away 6 years over one stupid message. One stupid message, I repeated. The one where you laid out your roadmap for leaving, then coming back once you were bored. Now she got angry. You're being dramatic. I didn't say I was leaving. I said I was thinking. Thinking about other men as a requirement before we have kids. I said. That's not a passing idea, Em. That's a mindset. She paced, tugging at her damp hair. Everyone wonders what they're missing out on. I just said it out loud. Everyone doesn't empty the truth into someone else's phone and hope it never leaks, I said. Except it did. To the one person who cares enough about me to say something. Kyle shouldn't have shown you that, she muttered. Kyle did what a brother should do, I said. He warned me. She stopped pacing and looked at me, something defiant in her eyes. What if I do need to try other people before I settle down completely? Isn't it better that I'm honest about that than secretly cheating? I let out a short, humorless laugh. You think announcing your intention to treat me like a safety net is some kind of moral high ground? She crossed her arms. You're twisting everything. No, I said softly. I'm finally untwisting it. I grabbed my keys from the hook. My heart felt heavy, but my steps didn't shake. Where are you going? She asked, voice cracking. To stay at Kyle's place tonight, I said. Maybe a few nights. I need space to think without wondering who you're texting. You're just going to abandon me? She snapped. I paused at the door. You were already planning to abandon me, I said. I'm just getting a head start. She stared at me, stunned, as if the idea that I might actually leave had never fully occurred to her. Mark, she said, softer now, almost panicked. Come on, let's just forget this. Please, we're fine. I opened the door. We're not fine, but we might still end up okay. I walked out before she could say anything else. On the drive to my brother's apartment, the initial shock wore off and left something colder behind. Betrayal mixed with a strange, growing clarity. If she wanted to try different men, that was her call. But I didn't have to be the safe harbor waiting at the end of her experiment. Kyle's place, he didn't say, I told you so. He just handed me a beer, clapped a hand on my shoulder, and let me sit in silence for a while. You know she's going to come back, he said eventually. People like her always think they can walk out, test drive chaos, then stroll back when they're bored. Yeah, I said quietly. I know. Then what are you going to do? He asked. I stared at the wall for a long moment. I'm going to make sure that when she does, I said. I won't be the one opening the door. Kyle raised an eyebrow. You've got something in mind? Not yet, I admitted. But I've got 6 months of separation ahead of me whether I like it or not. I might as well put them to good use. Part of me still hurt. Part of me still hoped she'd text an apology, show up crying, say she'd made a horrible mistake. Another part, the part that had read her words with no hesitation, no regret, knew she'd probably go through with her trying different men phase. And when that happened, when the shine wore off and reality knocked her back to our front porch, I planned to be long past waiting. I didn't know yet who would open that door 6 months later. But I knew it wouldn't be the man she thought she could put on pause. The first 2 weeks after I left felt like walking around without a shadow. Everything looked the same. Same streets, same stores, same commute, but nothing felt familiar anymore. My routines unraveled. My evenings stretched out long and quiet. The bed Kyle let me crash in was too soft, the air too dry, the silence too constant. But the strangest part? I didn't miss Emily. I missed the idea of her. The version I thought I married. The one who would never write a sentence like the one I had read on her phone. She sent a few texts at first. Long ones. Carefully worded ones. Attempts at salvaging the narrative. Emily, we need to talk like adults, not run away. Emily, I didn't cheat. Can we at least agree on that? Emily, you're overreacting to something, I said in frustration. When I didn't respond, the tone shifted. Emily, you're making this more dramatic than it is. Emily, I feel like I'm being punished for honesty. Then the tone shifted again. Emily, if you're leaving me, I deserve closure. And then, Emily, fine. If you need space, take it. I'll wait. That was the last message. I didn't reply. Kyle watched me read each text with narrowed eyes, but he never pushed. He knew I needed to sit in the silence, let the truth settle like dust. I didn't tell anyone else about the breakup. Not my parents, not friends, not coworkers. I wasn't ready for the sympathy, the advice, the "I never liked her anyway" comments. I needed to rebuild my spine before I announced the collapse of my marriage. 3 weeks after I left, I filed for a separation. Quietly, methodically, without anger. The lawyer asked the usual questions: timeline, assets, property. When she asked, "Is this temporary or do you plan to move toward divorce?" I said something I didn't expect. "I don't know yet." I meant it. Not because I wanted Emily back, but because I didn't yet know who I was without her. The separation paperwork required each of us to live apart for 6 months before a divorce could be finalized. Colorado law, or at least the version of it my lawyer rattled off. 6 months. A strange number. Clean half year. Long enough to heal. Long enough to grow. Long enough for Emily's fantasy to collapse into reality. During that time, something changed in me. I started going to the gym again, not to become a different man, but to become a stronger one. I reconnected with old friends. I took a weekend trip to visit my cousin in Oregon. I fixed Kyle's leaky sink. I got a haircut that didn't look like an accident. I bought new clothes that actually fit. I didn't do any of it out of spite. I did it because I finally remembered that I existed outside of my marriage. Meanwhile, Emily stayed in the house. Not once during the entire 6 months did she try to show up at Kyle's place. She didn't drunk text me. She didn't leave long voicemails crying about mistakes and second chances. She went quiet. Too quiet. Every now and then, mutual friends would mention seeing her downtown. Alone sometimes, with someone else other times, always looking like she was trying to curate a version of herself that didn't hurt. I didn't ask questions. I didn't want answers. By the 4th month, something happened that shifted the emotional landscape even more. I met someone. Her name was Sarah. She worked at the same office building where I'd been moved temporarily after the separation. She wasn't flashy or overly flirtatious. She wasn't trying to replace anyone. She was just present, kind, curious, safe without being boring, interesting without trying. We got coffee twice before either of us admitted it was technically a date. Nothing physical, nothing rushed, just 2 people learning to smile again. I didn't tell Sarah about Emily at first. I wanted to be sure I wasn't using her as some rebound life raft. When I eventually told her everything, she didn't judge. She didn't make jokes. She didn't treat me like I was broken. She simply said, "I'm glad you're choosing yourself." The 5th month, I moved out of Kyle's apartment and into a small rental house. Clean start. Small kitchen, old hardwood floors, a backyard that needed work. I furnished it slowly: 1 couch, 1 lamp, 1 bed, 1 set of dishes. Every weekend, the place felt less like a space and more like a home. By the 6th month, I felt like a different version of myself. Not a better one, just truer. Someone who didn't put his dreams on layaway to accommodate someone else's indecision. I expected Emily to show up around month 4 or 5. People like her often find the world harsher than they imagined outside the safety of stability. But she didn't. Not a word. Until one Tuesday evening. I had just finished mowing the tiny patch of yard at my rental when I heard a car pull up. I wiped my forehead, set the mower aside, and looked toward the driveway. It was Emily. Same car we bought together. Same hairstyle. Same anxious posture. She stepped out slowly, holding a small bag in one hand and her phone in the other, like she wasn't sure whether she was arriving or retreating. Her eyes landed on me and softened. She walked toward the porch, took a breath and said, "Mark, I'm ready to come home." Home. The word felt foreign coming from her. But before I could respond, before she could rehearse the speech she'd clearly practiced in the car mirror, the front door behind me opened. I didn't turn immediately. I saw Emily's face first. Her eyes widened. Her lips parted. Her entire expression collapsed into stunned disbelief. Then I felt the hand rest gently on my back. Sarah stood in the doorway, smiling warmly. "Hey," she said. "I brought iced tea. Want some?" Emily's face turned bright red. Anger red, shock red, embarrassment red, realization red. She wasn't expecting anyone else to answer the door. She wasn't expecting me to have moved on. She wasn't expecting to be the one left behind. "Emily," I said calmly, "this isn't your home anymore." She blinked rapidly, voice trembling. Who is she?" "Someone who didn't wait until she was done trying different men before deciding I was worth choosing," I said gently. She took a shaky breath. "Mark, please." But the desperation in her voice arrived 6 months too late. I stepped back toward the door. "I hope you find whatever you were looking for." Sarah slipped her hand into mine. Not possessively, just quietly supportive. Emily swallowed hard. "So that's it? You're just done?" "No," I said. "You ended this." I just moved forward. She opened her mouth again, but no words came. For the first time, she understood the lesson life had handed her. You can choose to leave, but you don't get to choose whether someone waits. She turned, walked back to her car, and drove away without another word. Sarah squeezed my hand. "You okay?" For the first time in a long time, I answered honestly. "Yeah," I said. "I really am." Emily didn't drive away fast. She rolled down the street slowly, like she kept hoping I'd run after her. Knock on her window, tell her we could fix everything if we just talked for 5 more minutes. But she'd used up those minutes 6 months ago. Once her car disappeared around the corner, I let out a long breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. There was no triumph in it. No gloating. No I win. Just closure. Simple and final, like a book shutting on the last chapter. Sarah stepped beside me, holding out the iced tea she'd brought earlier, condensation dripping down the plastic cup. "Still want this?" she asked softly. I laughed under my breath and took it. "Yeah, I think I do." We went inside. She didn't pry. She didn't ask what Emily said. She didn't pressure me to define our relationship or make promises I wasn't ready for. She just sat with me, letting the quiet settle in the way clean air replaces smoke. Later that evening, after Sarah left, I stood in the middle of my living room and really looked at the space. It wasn't fancy. My couch was secondhand. My coffee table was a refurbished thrift find. The TV was small. The walls were bare except for one framed photo of my parents on their wedding day. But it was mine. My home. My peace. My future. My phone buzzed around 9 p.m. A message from Emily. Not angry. Not begging. Just 3 simple words. "I'm sorry, Mark." I stared at the screen, waiting for the old ache to return. The one that used to show up whenever she apologized. But it didn't come. Instead, I felt something much quieter. Something kinder. I typed back. "I hope you find what you're looking for. Take care." No bitterness. No door left open. Just truth. She didn't respond after that. And I didn't need her to. Over the next few weeks, life settled into something surprisingly warm. Sarah and I continued seeing each other, slowly, intentionally. We cooked dinner together sometimes, walked her dog at the park, talked about books, music, our families. It wasn't a whirlwind romance or fairy tale drama. It was steady and kind and real. About a month later, Kyle came over to help me assemble a grill for the backyard. He hammered a bolt into place, wiped sweat off his forehead, and said, "So, Sarah, huh?" I smirked. "Yeah, Sarah. She seems good for you," he said. "Balanced, smart, doesn't treat you like a backup plan." I nudged him with my elbow. "Thanks for showing me the truth back then." He shrugged. "Someone had to. You deserved to know." I did, and because I knew, I grew. One Saturday morning, while Sarah and I sat on the porch with coffee, she looked out at the quiet street and said, "Do you ever think about what would have happened if she never sent that text?" I considered it, really considered it. "Honestly," I said, "I think I'd still be living in that old house, waiting for a future she didn't want." "And now?" she asked gently. "Now," I said, smiling, "I'm building a life that isn't waiting on anyone." Sarah leaned her head on my shoulder. The sunlight warmed the porch. Birds chirped somewhere in the distance. It was simple, peaceful, something Emily never understood because she was always chasing a next thrill, a next man, a next phase of life she thought would make everything fall into place. But the truth is, and it took me 6 painful months to learn this, sometimes the thrill isn't in trying everything. Sometimes the thrill is finding something real and choosing it every day. Emily eventually moved to another city. Word filtered through mutual friends that her trying different men phase lasted about 3 weeks before it became what it always becomes. Exhausting, chaotic, hollow. She never reached out again, and I never looked back, because the moment she came to my door expecting me to be waiting, and found Sarah instead, that was when I finally understood. Revenge isn't always loud. It isn't always dramatic. Sometimes the best revenge is simply healing faster than they expected, and building a life they never thought you could without them.